Hello, and welcome to another episode of Turning Sparkly Cardboard Sideways. My name's Jimmy, Bancroft is behind the camera, and right here will be my personal phone number, 859-279-2405. If you have any questions, concerns, critiques on any deck profile or battles we post, please feel free to send me a message, or if you just want to say hi or share some of your deck tech, deck list ideas, please send me a message, and I'll try to reply as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Attack on Productions. Fluf here, today coming back at you with another deck profile. Today we're looking at Syn Shenron. This was a leader that I wanted to do a lot with during set 10, but never really had a chance to, just because I was really stuck on Topo Lock during that time. So I didn't get a chance to mess with this. With the advent of set 11, Syn Shenron got a couple changes, so I couldn't wait to dig into this deck. And surprisingly enough, I've actually liked it. It's a interesting meta choice for set 11's current format, just because it does a lot of good stuff against a lot of the decks. I would say maybe its weakest matchup, maybe Go Tanks, maybe Dark Brawly. I'm not really sure, but I do really love this deck. Hopefully you guys will like it. This is very similar to a profile that recently topped over the last weekend. I do run some of my tech at different numbers just based on my standing, and I'll kind of talk about other things that we could add to the deck as we get there. So first we're going to look at the leader. Syn Shenron, 10,000 on the front side. When this card attacks, you get to look up the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 1 Shadow Dragon card from there, add it to your hand, then you get to shuffle your deck. Then also at the end of the turn, you get to choose one of your Shadow Dragons, switch it back to active mode, which is pretty monumental because we run some pretty big blockers in this deck. Then once your life is at 3 or less, or you have a Unison with a specified cost of 4, you get to draw 2 cards and choose one of your energies, switch to active mode, then flip over. It's kind of weird. 3 life is not typically a good point to be at, and a specified Unison of 4 is pretty late into the game to want to get to your backside. So that can be a little bit awkward, but the leader itself is actually pretty good. On the backside, we get auto draw 1. Then we also get, at the end of the turn, choose all of your Shadow Dragons and switch them back to active mode. That's going to be a pretty relevant effect because we do play a few blockers. You don't want your opponent to be able to swing into your rest mode dragons, especially late game as field presence starts to matter more and more. Then he does have an activate main for 6 yellow energy. You get to play up to 7 Shadow Dragon cards with different names from your drop area. So right now, we're limited on that effect just because we don't have all 7 or 8 Shadow Dragons. But right now, we should be able to get up to, I believe, 4 from play from the drop area for 6 energy. So being able to play 6 energy, being able to play 4 battle cards for 6 energy is still pretty good. And this effect, I feel, will grow more and more useful as time goes on. So that's the leader. I'm going to move on from that. At first, we're going to look at our Unison choices. We do play 2 of the Vegeta Unison of Furies. Activate main, choose one of your battle cards, or this card, switch it to rest mode, add a marker to it. -1, activate main. Your opponent can't attack with battle cards with an energy cost greater than their current energy until the end of their next turn. So that effect is more relevant than the -3 in this deck. The -3 gives the leader plus 5,000 double strike dual attack, which can be nice for pressure, but we're more interested in boarding this in early stages of the game to bottleneck aggression. So if you're playing against Go Tanks, they can't swing with their 6 drops. If you're playing against Gogeta or Brawly, they can't swing once they start going up their chains. If you're playing against Dark Brawly, they can't swing with their big 6-drop 30,000s on turn 2 like they would usually try to do. So this is just going to limit and bottleneck what they can do. Plus, it gives us a Unison on board to take advantage of some of the cards in the deck that wants to have a Unison on board to play. So 2 of these, just because it is good, we do want a second Unison that is relevant early. Then to camp off, we do run 3 of Mechikabura, the yellow Unison. He does have blocker. He's 15,000. Once per turn, when this card has its markers removed due to an attack, you choose one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. Then he does have a +1 where you get to draw a card. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier. And that card can't be switched to active mode until the end of your opponent's next turn, which is pretty good for keeping stuff locked down. And then -4, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, take control of it, switch it to active mode. So we're using the Unison in 2 ways. One, we're going to use it to awaken. Then we're most likely going to either resolve the -4 or use it defensively, depending on what they have on the field. Like, if they have a big threat like a 6-drop Gogeta or a Xenocell that you've happened to survive through, or they have a big boy Brawly, this is the type of stuff that you want to take with this. It's things that are going to shift the tempo in your favor. You're going to be able to apply lots of pressure once this effect resolves. If you can't resolve this effect, like if there's just not a good target on the field, then by all means keep it. Let it be a blocker. Let it provide a little bit more control than you already have. So we do run 3 of these. I found 4 to be really clunky. If I had to change anything about my Unison lineup, I might go up 1 on the Vegetas just to help see them early. But I really like it at this 5. It doesn't get in the way too much. They're pretty easy charge targets when you don't exactly need them. I would say the big thing is make sure that you're keeping a Mechikabura on hand to awaken when you need to. Though if you have to wait till you're at 3 to awaken, that's okay too. Moving into the big Shadow Dragon lines, we're going to start off first with the negative energy 1 Star Ball. Permanent. This card can't attack and isn't affected by your opponent's skills. So you can't swing with this card. It stays in active mode, but then your opponent can't affect it to any degree. So they can't neg it out. They can't pop it. The only thing that they could do is swing into it while it's in active mode, like if they tapped it down, or they can't even tap it down. So they would literally have to have a Unison that let them swing into active modes. So I'm thinking, Syn Shenron or the Yamcha leader, or what was it, the 3-star ball? It was the 3 or 5-star ball that lets you attack active modes. But we're not really worried about that. They're not incredibly relevant. It's pretty difficult to get rid of these once they're on the field. But activate main for 1 yellow energy. You get to place this card in the drop area. Then you get to, from your hand or deck, play a 4-star Syn Shenron. Or a 4... gosh, look at me talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! You get to play a power cost 4... energy cost 4 Syn Shenron from your deck. This is our target for that. This guy is really good for tapping down your leader. So you're keeping your opponent's leader tapped down. So when you play him, he is a blocker. When you get to play it, you choose one of your opponent's leader cards in rest mode or battle card with an energy cost of 4 or less. That card cannot attack during your opponent's next turn. So that's great. If your opponent's leader's in rest mode, you use this. They don't get their swing. They don't get their draw. During the next turn, the leader will inherently stay in active mode. It does switch back to active mode. But if your opponent swings and you have a Zama super combo, you can rest mode the leader down and then do this again. So they basically lose out on 2 turns, but it really slows your opponent down not getting that leader's draw. So this card's amazing. We're pretty much going to go straight from this into the next step. But if for some reason this card is removed from a battle area by an opponent's skill, you get to draw 1. Then you get to play one of these guys from your drop area. So it does replace itself in the event that it is removed from the skill. This is probably the Achilles heel of the deck, this card right here. You will either run out of these or your opponent will solve them. So if you play them, your opponent counterplays them, you just lose it. If you run out of these, you run out of quick ways to get into your 9-drop, which can be problematic. The deck does run away to get through these again, but it's not an easy task to accomplish by any means. So we do run 4 of those. Then we run 4 of the 9-drop Syn Shenron Destruction Incarnate. This guy has Blocker Revenge, 9-drop 30,000. When your opponent plays a battle card, you may choose that card ignoring barrier and negate its skills for the turn. And then auto, when this card is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill or KO'd, you get to draw 2 cards. Then you get to play the 1-star ball back. So it gets to set up the next line that needs to go up. This card has some weird interactions with timing, depending on whose turn it is, and resolving autos and in order of resolving autos. This is probably not the right video for it, but just in summation, the way that I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong below, but on your turn, if you've got the Syn Shenron on field, your opponent arrivals a card with an auto in, Syn Shenron triggers, negates the opponent's auto fizzles. If it's your opponent's turn, they do get their auto. So it's kind of the difference between his effect being an auto versus a permanent. If it were a permanent, it would negate all skills before they had a chance to resolve. But it really is dependent on whose autos get to resolve first. And it also kind of gets weird when you look at like some of the big foo cards as far as like who gets to resolve first and how they've resolved. So this card is really awesome. It's super disruptive. It makes your opponent play a slower game or play a more vulnerable game. But this card, basically, you use it as a blocker, you use it as a big beater. It's a lot of pressure. It makes your opponent play around it weird. And you get massive advantage if your opponent deals with it. And it sets up another one. So at any given point in time, I don't like to have more than 2 of these on the field. Just so I have another one, just in case one of them gets solved or both of them get solved. So I like to no more than 2. I feel like if you put 3 or 4 of these, you're just asking for your entire deck to be shut down. So do keep that in mind, but we do play 4 of those. Next up the next chain, we've got 2 of the negative energy 2-star ball. This is exactly the same as the 1-star ball that we went over before. I don't play as many of these because they're not as important to getting the deck to resolve or getting the deck to work. These are mostly here if you need to be more aggressive or you need to deal with an opponent's Unison. So if your opponent has a Unison that you need to just get rid of to keep them from resolving some big effect next turn, like you're playing against blue and they have baby Unison on board and you don't want them to resolve that -5, or if you're staring down a Jaren that's sitting on 4, you want to try to get them down as much as possible to prevent your opponent from overwhelming you. That's when we would use these. The deck can tutor these out, so I felt easier not running a ton of them because ultimately if you're on the bubble and you need a good draw, these are not good draws. So I took them down to 2, but basically for 1 energy, you get to play out a 3-drop Haze Shenron. And we do, on the Haze Shenron, I run 3 of these guys. They are crit bodies, 15,000, which is always nice. But when this card is played, you get to add up to 1 Shadow Dragon with an energy cost of 4 or less from your drop area to your hand. So these are one of the ways that we get to re-add our 4-drop Shenron back from the drop area if for some reason we run out of them or they get discarded or they get KO'd. So we can use this to add that back, or we can add the next spec. We have Haze Shenron. Haze Shenron Venomous Mist. We do run 4 of these guys. These are absolutely worth running at a 4 of. They are a free EX Evolve double strike. When a card evolves into this card, you switch it back to active mode. But more importantly, on his second auto, when you swing with this card or when you combo with it, you can discard a Shadow Dragon from your hand, choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode with an energy cost greater than their current energy and KO it. So if you're sitting on, if you're staring down a, your opponent has played a grade 8 baby on you. That wouldn't be relevant. Let's say your opponent has a 6-drop Gotenks and they're at 3 energy. You swing with this card, or you swing with like your leader. You can combo this card off, discard a card that you don't need, and pop the Gotenks. And if you've managed to negate their skill, they won't get their recover 2 materials back. So this card is extremely important, whether it be played on the field or you're just using it as combo/field control. Yellow really struggles with on-demand field or card removal, so this card is monumental. We do play 4 of those, always run 4. Moving on to kind of the the not main engines of the deck. I do run 3 Ice Shenron from the Cryomancer. This is a counterplay. If your leader card is mono yellow, play this card. The card being played is played in rest mode. It is a 2 cost, so it costs you 2 energy to do that. But then activate main yellow, discard this card from your hand, play up to 1 Shadow Dragon with an energy cost of 1 from your deck with its skills negated for the turn, then shuffle your deck. So this is going to let us play that 1-star ball or that 2-star ball back or from the deck if we need to tutor them out. This is a great card to have turn 1. It's a great mulligan play. You could absolutely run this at a 4 of. I just found, for me personally, I did not need this at a 4 of. It's absolutely viable. It's kind of a crusher ball with an energy cost of 2 while being able to play a 15,000 body, which is absolutely respectable in its own right. This card is fantastic. I just felt it got a little clunky when you're at 4 of them. They sit in your hand. You don't want to play this and then count on trying to go up a Shadow Dragon line in the same turn. So we do play this just because on turn 1, it's a great way to put a 1-star or 2-star on the field. And for later, it's good for countering or recovery plays. Or if we run into a moment where we might need the 2-star ball and Haze Shenron line, we can use this to get into that. 3 has been more than enough. It's perfect. I see it as I need it and it doesn't clunk my hand. Kind of moving into the 1-ofs, we do play 1 of Syn Shenron, the Harbinger of Ruin. It does have deflect, so your opponent can't respond to it being played. Activate main, you choose 1 card in rest mode, or 1 of your cards in rest mode, place in its owner's drop area, then choose 1 of your opponent's cards and switch it to rest mode. Auto, when this card is removed from battle area by an opponent's skill, add up to 2 yellow battle cards with 1,000 power from your drop area to your hand. So if you play him and he gets removed, it's a great way to add the 1-star balls back, or a 1-star and a 2-star. His effect is really good for tapping down an energy that your opponent might be wanting to use for defensive plays. Like if you're playing against yellow and they have 1 energy open, you always have to worry about stuff like Vegeta's Final Flash or Flying Nimbus. So this will help us deal with this. This card's not wholly useful in other areas. And also keep in mind, you don't get your recovery effects because they have to be opponent's skill. So you don't get this. So you can't like use this on the 9-drop to draw 2 cards and then play a 1-star. So just keep that in mind, but it is good in key situations. It's kind of like Bergamo Ferocious Roar. When it's good, it's really good. When it's not, it's kind of meh. So that's where we're at now. But he has a 3-drop 20,000, which is pretty big on your big kill turn. So next, we do play 1 of Super Natron Shenron Pan Absorbed. This is an EX Evolve 2 from a Natron Shenron with an energy cost of 2. We don't play the 2-drop in the deck. Auto, when this card is played, place up to 3 Shadow Dragon cards from your drop area at the bottom of your deck in any order, and this card gains dual attack for the turn. Auto, when this card is used in a combo, play 1 7-star negative energy overflow from your drop area. Don't believe that we actually have that yet. So that effect in whole is not relevant, but if it is, it's for this lineup. We don't care about that. We are focused mainly on his 1 of nature in the deck with that auto. So if you need to recover these guys back into your drop area, you can play him, shuffle 3 back in, or on the turn that you activate the leader's pay 6, you get to play him, and it's a 20,000 dual attack for extra pressure on that turn. It's absolutely a fantastic card at a 1 of, and maybe later, if the deck style changes, we play this card, but as of right now, it's just needed at a 1 of. Then next, we do play the Energy 3 Surprise Attack Natron Shenron. This is a natural double strike, 15,000. Again, has an EX Evolve from a Natron Shenron with an energy cost of 2, which we don't play. But then auto, if your leader card is yellow, when your opponent plays a battle card or Unison, you may choose the card, switch it to rest mode, and if you do, negate the skill for the turn. So it's kind of like the little brother to the 9-drop Shenron. It provides a little bit more control to you. It actually reminds me, and it might actually be the same effect as the Poutine the black that gets to play for free when you rest mode a card. So it reminds me a lot of that. Poutine is another viable option for this deck. I chose to not do it. I found that the deck space is pretty tight. So you're moving from valuable engines to play a tech choice if you're doing that. And I just don't think that tech choice in particular is strong enough to merit. We're mainly playing this so we can resolve that -6 or tap 3, put on a little bit of pressure with Double Strike. Our secret rare, we do play Syn Shenron Negative Energy Incarnate. This card is amazing. It is potentially a block 6 times. And if your opponent can't KO it, it just restands. And he gets to be played for really free. So being able to play him for 2 or 3 energy is absolutely monumental to have a 7-drop that is 35,000 that can block multiple times. You could play Xenocell in this. Xenocell gets a little awkward as far as trying to time it and having the right cards on the field. So having this lets you survive a turn that you otherwise would not have been able to survive just because of its blocker nature. Your opponent can solve this card. They can pop it. They can KO it. But that is usually a step around what they would want to do on their typical kill turn. So if you can board this guy on like turn 3, if you just so happen to have the 1-drops in the drop area, or if you can put him on turn 5, survive turn 6, activate your 6 cost, play all the Shadow Dragons. He does count as a Syn Shenron, so you wouldn't be able to play like another 9-drop or another 4-drop or the 3-drop Syn Shenron if you chose this guy as a target. But it is big-bodied. It does get to restand at the end of the turn with the leader's effect. So even if you can't kill on that turn, you have a little bit of defense there for you. So one of these, I think it's great. It helps you survive in situations you normally wouldn't. To deal with troublesome unisons, we do have the SS3 Son Goku, the Last Straw. This is like any other 1-drop Take a Life, gains Double Strike plus 10,000. So it's a 15,000 Double Strike for 1 energy and 1 life. This is really great if for some reason we need to awaken and we're at 4 life, but we want to awaken this turn. So we can play this, swing, Take a Life, go to 3, awaken, get our draw 2, restand 1. This card is most of the time not going to get played, but I would rather have it. And I'm a big fan in decks that can just lose to the presence of a Unison, having the option to deal with a Unison if they need to. So this is big for the deck. So 2 of those main boarded. Super combos, we do run 4 of the Zamath Sacred Disbelief. My opinion, best super combo in the game, even compared to the new quality super combos that came out of set 11. But this guy, you combo with it plus 10,000. Doesn't matter what your life is at. You get to choose one of your opponent's battle or leader cards, switch it to rest mode. So the presence of this just makes your opponent really think about their plays. If they play wrong, you get to really punish their incorrect play. So if they swing with a battle card before swinging with the leader because they're afraid of flying Nimbus, you get to rest mode the leader, deny them out of the draw, which is kind of double from what the 4-drop Syn Shenron would do. So if the Syn Shenron has had it tapped down, and they're finally going to get to swing with their leader, but they want to pressure with a battle card before they do that to avoid effects like Nimbus or Vegeta's Final Flash, then you tap the leader down and they still don't get to do it. And then if you put a 4-drop in play, the next turn, you get to prevent that leader from attacking again. So if you play this right and you see the right cards, your opponent's leader may only attack once during a game, which over the course of 4, 5, or 6 turns is just more and more devastating because your opponent won't be able to get their draws. And I mean, think about having 5 less cards in your hand at the end of a game. It's usually a big difference maker. And this deck is just really good at punishing bad plays or incorrect plays. So next we run 2 of the Vegeta Prideful Transformation. This deck is not as Unison-centric as maybe you would think it would be. These have the tendency to be a little clunky in the long term, so you don't necessarily want to load these up fully. In testing, as I kind of test it and I see that these become more relevant, but in my testing, they're just not as relevant as they are in other decks like Topo Lock or yellow Gotenks, where you constantly have a Unison on board. This deck may not board a Unison until turn 4, or it may board a Unison. The Unison may stick around for a turn and then be gone, and then be there till turn 4 for you to just -4 and take a threat. So I run fewer of these, but these do on counterplay rest mode a battle card. And it's a 14,000 blocker. So again, more blocker for the deck, reduces the number of negates that we actually need. This card is really good, and if Unisons start to become more pertinent for this deck, then I will bump the number up on these. I think it would be safe to run this at 3 in here. I just chose to bring it down just because of other tech that I wanted to run. Kind of our second secret rare is Fu Shrouded in Mystery. This just gives us an alternative to that pay 6. Play big cards. It is another 6 cost play. Theoretically... So sorry, I've got some kind of whatever. Theoretically, you would do this on turn 6. If they happen to survive that big push, you then the next turn try to resolve Fu Shrouded in Mystery. You try to survive, you do whatever you've got to do, but then play the Fu Shrouded in Mystery, turn off all your opponent's skills, and then finish the game off. So that would be the best way to play this. Could come out if this doesn't work for you. I love Fu Shrouded in Mystery and control decks that like to take the game to in that turn 6. Even if I know, like if my opponent is at 2 life and I know that I have more cards than them, I will most likely just play the Fu Shrouded in Mystery instead of messing with this. It's faster, it's quicker, your opponent appreciates the brevity, it's just as useful. Especially if it's against something like green that might have a dormant potential. That they might dormant potential this swarm and then beat you the next turn. If you just play this and just end the game there, they can't activate. Even if they can't activate dormant potential, first off. And secondly, they're going to be harder pressed to get out of this than they would be spanning the field and just getting one attack and being able to combo out of it. So, one of the Fus. Moving into the extra card lineup, we have Time Magic. I do play 2 of these. I've been thinking about bumping this up to 3 because this is really good against the Gotenks matchup where dual attack is really relevant in that matchup. But I run 2 arguments for 3. This card kind of comes and goes in favor for me. Then I run 2 Flying Nimbus, another contentious choice. I think Flying Nimbus gets weaker and weaker as the game goes along, just because a lot of Unisons attack multiple times, or just the presence of a Unison, having to discard a card on like a battle card swing, then your opponent still gets 3 attacks after that. So this isn't what it used to be before. Then I run 1 Release from Evil. This card is not always relevant, and the reason that I don't run more is because I run more of the last extra card that we see. Release from Evil is more of a, I do not want this attack to go through. I do not want to even potentially take anything, and I just need to stall the game out. The thing with Release from Evil is you can't bait your opponent into wasting a lot of resources with this card, whereas our final card, Vegeta's Final Flash, I run into 3 of. You can bluff your opponent out with no negates. They'll think they have a win. They'll go all in on a triple strike while you're at 3 life. They'll go all in on a double strike while you're at 1 or 2. They'll go crazy and they'll combo their hand out. You have 1 open energy, you put 1 Vegeta's Final Flash on it, you turn the skills off, you take 1 damage. They are out of resources, passes to turn, and you win because they don't have any defenses. Or if they do, they're extremely behind because they put everything in on that attack. I love this. This is really good against the Gogeta matchup as well, where you can't, or the Gotenks matchup even, where your opponent will recover if you KO the Gotenks and the Gogetas can't be KO'd. But if you use this to turn skills off and then just pop the card with like a Haze Shenron combo or something like that, it's absolutely devastating for them to lose that, and Vegeta's Final Flash lets us do it. So that is the Syn Shenron deck. Sorry it was a little wordy. Sorry for the cracky throat. I guess I'm thirsty. I don't know. But if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a comment below. If there's any decks that you want to see, let us know. I'm willing to do pretty much anything. Other decks that could be considered for this deck, you could look at the Zarbon Emperor's Attendant, which is back from set 1 that lets you restand your blockers. that card is kind of, it's almost win more, and it's kind of cute. In a lot of games, it doesn't do a lot for you. So I opted to not run that card, although I think it's completely applicable. You could even try to slide in some like Universe 9 tech in here to further keep your opponent tapped down and just really control the tempo. But I do like this deck. It's not super aggressive, but it does really control what your opponent can do. So keep that in mind. Give the deck a shot. It's a lot of fun. By no means is this the best deck in the format, but it is really fun. It's got a decent matchup against blue. It's got a really good matchup against red. It's got a... mirror yellow matches are never fun because it's just everyone rest moding. It's like rest moding with Oprah. Everyone gets a rest mode. And then against green is probably its hardest matchup just because Dormant is pertinent when it is, and the Gotenks can just pop the 9-drops almost as fast as you can play them. So with that in mind, that is the deck. Again, thank you so much, guys. As always, make sure to read your cards, know your plays, and fluff out.